All right, hello CAD 101. I hope you guys are doing well. And we are going to start moving on to example 2 today. Um, and so before we get too far into this, I'm just going to do a couple of reviews in terms of skills and what we talked about last week. And just to review some of the stuff that we'll be using again this week. And hopefully you guys remember, you'll get some more practice today. But this is the drawing we're working with, example 2. And just to clarify, in the drawing, you're given 2 views, but you will be producing 3 views. So here's our front view, top view, and then we're going to produce a side view as well over here. It's not included because you're given all the information needed on the 2 views, so the third wasn't included. But just for the sake of doing a 3-view drawing, we're going to also produce the right side view as well. So, all right, I'm going to drag this off the screen for a minute and we'll come back to it in a few. Okay, so let's review some of the stuff that we talked about last week. And I set up my drawing a little bit to get going this morning, but you guys will have to do this each time you set up a drawing. And eventually we'll set up a template. So you'll be able to save this, your layers and your settings and kind of all that stuff as a template that you would open. But for the time being, I'd like you guys to go through the process of doing that every time so that you remember, you kind of get in the groove of how to set up layers, how to adjust your settings, all that kind of stuff, because some of this is a little bit buried in menus or there's shortcuts to remember or stuff like that. So before you get in the habit of just opening a template, I want you to kind of go through the process of setting up your drawings. So one of the first things I do is I go to the layer properties, and let me bring in my layers, and I'm going to set up a couple new layers each time. For sure, always construction layer. I prefer yellow and a hidden line, and then dimensions. Ooh, I just noticed my dimension. I don't need hidden lines. Actually, I don't want hidden lines on my dimension layer. I want continuous lines. And just as another quick review, when you first set up your layers, all the line types are not loaded. So you'll have to click load, and then another menu comes in, and you'll have to go down and select the line type that you want. And that's hidden, which I've already loaded, but you'll have to do that each time. So pretty easy one to forget. You might end up in this situation without a hidden line layer or a hidden line available, and you might forget where to go. So just hit load, and then you can add additional line types into your layer manager. Okay, so we've got those. So you're for sure going to need dimensions and construction. And then I'm going to go ahead and close this. And again, to start a new layer, you're just going to click this button right here, click new layer, and add those attributes. All right. Also, my cursor is red right now, just because we were doing some stuff in a different AutoCAD class, and we changed the cursor color so that it would contrast more with an image we were working with. But that's just a color setting, so don't be distracted by a red cursor. Yours is probably white, and that's fine. All right, so this is the basic, I offset the construction lines as needed. So I'm going to bring up my drawings again. So if we look at this front view, the full width from here all the way over to here is 5.5. That's what I offset this line over here to. So this is 5.5. Then I've got a 3-inch space between here and here. And then I've got my right side view down here, which corresponds to the 2.25 up here. So if we're looking at it from the top view, this dimension here is going to equal the width down here. So from here to here is 2.25. And then the overall height is 1.88. So from our origin down here up to here is 1.88. We've got a 3-inch space from here over to here. And then we've got a 2.25-inch space from here up to here. So just as another review, I'm going to do the offset command. And I'll just show you how quick that can be. So we're going to delete these. Okay. So I'm going to go offset right there. Specify offset distance. So 5.5, enter. And then I'm going to click the line to offset, and I'm going to go this direction. It's still in the offset command, which is great because I'm going to offset again. Now I can offset the space, which is 3 inches. And then I'm going to offset one more time over this way and go 2.25, which is the width of our right side view. So there we go. We got some basic construction lines set up for us to start drawing in. So if we bring up our our drawing here, you're going to see we've got geometry that is symmetrical. So one of the things you want to keep in mind when you're drawing is how to be efficient and fast. And one of the first things you'll figure out how to do is how to mirror. And we're going to talk about mirroring geometry today. And so what you can do is just, pretend there's a midline down the center of this drawing. And we're just going to draw half of this. And then we're going to mirror over the line here. So with that in mind, we know that we're just going to draw kind of this shape and then mirror. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So I know I want a center line. Actually, I'm going to do this 2.62 first. I'm going to offset 2.62. Drag this off here. So offset 2.62. Enter. Offset this over here. And then I also noticed that this is a 0.26 inch space. So half of that to get to the center point is going to be offsetting this line 0.13. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's the line we just offset. We're going to offset that again. So 0.13. Okay. And this line right here is going to represent our center line right there, that guy. So as you can see, we're starting to get quite a few construction lines, and it can get pretty busy. And so eventually what you might choose to do is put construction lines on different layers even. So you might have a construction line layer just for your front view, a separate construction line layer for a different view, and then even a third for a top view. That will allow you to toggle those on and off as needed and keep your drawing space somewhat cleaned up and clear of hey, okay, I'm gonna add my camera in so you guys can see me. Okay, so that you can keep your space clear as much as possible of extra lines that you might not want to see at that time. So, okay, I'm gonna hit escape to get out of the command. And so now we've got a midpoint here. Let me go back to my drawing. I'll bring it over here. Bring this way. Okay. So I've got a midline here. The next thing I think I want to do is we're going to have to offset a line up from the bottom 0.38 to represent this horizontal. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, offset. So we got a lot of offsetting going on right now. So specified distance 0.38, enter. Okay. And then we know we have another horizontal line right here that's 0.5 up from the bottom as well. And we're gonna have to represent that as well. So let's go ahead and do that. So 0.5 right there. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in a little closer, and I like to orient myself around the origin here. Otherwise, if you zoom out, it's really difficult to tell what your bottom left corner is. With all the grids going on, you might get confused. But with this origin on your bottom left, you can kind of zoom in on your front view. So here's our front view. So here's the boundary box of our front view. So now what I can do is zoom out a little bit. I think I have enough lines to start drawing from the midpoint over to here, up to here, over. Let's get that going first. So we're going to switch layers. Make that our active layer. Go line, and I'm going to draw from the midpoint here. I'm going to go up to that first line, which is 0.38. And then I actually don't have the offset line to come over correctly, the correct amount. So we're going to leave that for now. And actually that offset distance is going to be 0.15 or 1.5 rather. Because if you look at your drawing, we need to get a construction line that follows this edge. So we're going to offset our center line. We're going to bring that over 0.15 because it's half that distance. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's our center line. Switch layers. Okay. Then we can go back. Get our line tool. And now we can go up here. Okay. So let's just toggle off our construction layer for just a second to see what we have. Okay. So we've got the center up to the center point. Then we drew over up here. So we're going to need a flat line over here. And then we're going to need an angled line that goes down this direction. Okay, so let's turn our layer back on. Okay. If we come back to the drawing. Okay. So what we can do is we know that this flat is going to be 0.25. So we have this construction line here. So we can go ahead and offset this construction line now over 0.25, and we'll get this point right there. Offset, we're going to go 0.25, enter, and then offset our line. Escape. And the faster you get at this, or the more efficient, I guess, you'll probably add a whole bunch of construction lines all at once in the beginning, and then just, follow, basically trace instead of switching back and forth. But in the beginning, I just usually draw what I need to in terms of construction lines, trace it, and then keep kind of going back and forth until you get what you need. Okay, so let's talk about our angled construction line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a construction line up here, and I'm going to have it go this direction, kind of down at an angle or up at an angle, however you want to look at it. And we know that this distance is 90 degrees from here to here. And if we had, if this was vertical, it would be 45 from the vertical line over to this right here. So let's talk about angles one more time. And I'm going to do that with my construction line. Make this construction layer active. I'm going to grab my construction line. And I'm going to start right here. And so if you notice, the highlighted blue section is a distance, and that's just the distance from my starting point to the cursor. That really doesn't matter right now because I can change the length by just moving my cursor. But to the right of that is a degree measurement. So we're at 330 degrees. If I bring this up to horizontal, I'm at 0. If I bring this up to vertical this way, we are now at 90. It's snapped on the nearest, but you'll see it's 90 degrees. And then we move over again, and we're at 270. Oh no, we're at 180, sorry, because it's 0 to 180. And then 270 down here, and then we're approaching 360 again. So it starts at 0 and goes counterclockwise in your normal 90 degree, whatever, increments, positive increments going up and around this way. That's always how AutoCAD works. So we know that if this was, straight up, we need this to be 45 degrees. This right now is 90, so 90 plus 45 is going to be 135. And so your cursor is, or your ortho will snap to it automatically if it's set up the same way as mine is. So I'm going to just click there and then hit escape. So we've got an angled line. If your ortho is not set up that way, you can come down to this menu right here, hit the little triangle next to it, and you can specify the angles you want your ortho to snap to. So you can go 45, 90, 135. That's why mine was snapping in those places. I usually leave it there. That's the default for AutoCAD, which is nice. But if you're drawing in some other degree increments, you can really easily just toggle between those. You can see now it's selected. I'm going to go back up there, and I'm back to 45. Okay. So now we can trace on our 0 layer from here, down to here, down to there, and then over to our center line. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to also show you another snap setting that is incredibly helpful. So right there, it's snapping on the midpoint. If, for instance, you wanted it to, and right there it's on the intersection. Let's say you're getting some selection, like a snap point selection that you don't want. It keeps happening. You want to snap to a different thing. You could come down here and you could toggle off a bunch of this stuff. Let's say we toggled off midpoint and then came back up. Now it's snapping to an endpoint, but you want your intersection to snap to your intersection. So then you have to come back down and you have to turn off a bunch of things until just your midpoint selected. That's a total pain in the neck. So An easier way to do this, and I'll show you this right now. You're going to grab your line tool, and you want to snap to the intersection. Press and hold your shift key on your keyboard, and then right click. So I'm going to do that again. Press and hold shift and right click on your mouse, and then you get a temporary snap window. And then you can select intersection, and it'll just allow you to select your intersection. It didn't do it. Let's try it again. My intersection on. It is on. Okay. So specify first point. Press and hold shift, right click. I want intersection, and there we go. So then it'll snap only to intersections just until you click it, click your line once. That, I'm telling you, that'll save you a bunch of time and headache. So press and hold shift, right click, and then press the snap that you want. And then you can come down and go to the next one. Okay, and over to my midline. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and toggle off the construction layer. All right, so we're looking good right there. All right, so what we're gonna do now at this point is we're gonna select all this geometry, and we're gonna use the mirror command, and we're just gonna flip all that geometry over the other side. So you can see how much time that'll save in setting up construction lines and setting up your angled construction line, etc. All right, I'm gonna turn on the construction layer because we're gonna need that center line in order to mirror. So if you come up here, you're gonna see your mirror tool. I'm gonna come out here, didn't select it. Okay, select the objects. So I'm just gonna click and let go and drag a window around these objects right there. So now we've got our objects selected that we want to mirror. And selection windows, if you start from up here, it'll only select the items or the objects that are completely within your window. So nothing that your window crosses will be selected if you select it, if you start your window up on the top left. So top left, click and let go, and then drag a window. I'll just do it again. So click and let go, drag your window right there. But I wasn't in the command. Let's do it again. Mirror, click and let go. All right, and then enter on your keyboard. Great. So the first point of your mirror line, so we're just gonna zoom in to our midline. Select here, and I'm gonna select just any other point. It could be this one, could be this one, could be nearest. I don't really like nearest as much because you can see it kind of gets off the line. I really like to go to like an intersection like that because it holds it really steady. Click again. You could erase your source objects, but typically you don't want to. No is selected by default. We're going to keep that as default and hit enter. And our geometry is now mirrored to the other side. So toggle that off and we're looking good. All right. So the next thing we want to do is we can go ahead and start working on our other views. And if I do that, my viewport up here, or the window up here, and I just realized, oh no, it's good. Okay, so here's my window that we're going to be drawing our other part in. So what that means is we can just grab the rectangle tool, select here, and we have the outline already for our top view. All right, so if you notice, all of these visible lines on the top view are transferred. You can transfer those from the edges down here. These middle ones transfer up, these transfer up. And so we've got just a bunch of visible edges from the top view. But you'll notice that we don't have all of our construction lines transferred going up here because we mirrored our geometry over. So you could just, draw in your 0 layer visible lines and then mirror those as well. Or you could just add some construction lines. I usually just add my construction lines at this point. So I'm going to go back to construction. And I'm going to just transfer these up. So here. And actually, let me talk about that real quick. So if you're doing construction lines like that, like I just did over and over, you can do a shortcut. So you get specify your first point, and then you click vertical, and it gives you the ability to do another one, but we hit escape because we don't want another one right there. But we do want to get back into that same command. So right click your mouse button and say repeat X line, which is your construction line. And then you're back in the command rather than going back up to your toolbar up there. So now all of your necessary lines are transferred. This is your midline. I'm just going to delete that just to save some confusion or save some extra lines. And then I'm going to switch back to my 0 layer. And I'm just going to draw these lines in. Again, right click, repeat line. So come down here, escape to get out of the command, right click your mouse button, repeat X line or repeat line. So this is where that right click shortcut menu will save you some time instead of going back and forth a whole bunch. All right, so there's our 2 views, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about one more thing, and don't forget, you got to do the 3rd view over here, but I'm going to let you do that on your own. Just as a quick giveaway, there will be a hidden line. You're going to have an edge right here that's going to transfer over, that's going to be hidden. And actually, it's just going to be that one. You would have that one as a hidden line, but it'll be blocked by that visible line right there. So you'll have a hidden line in your right side view. So don't forget that. The last thing I'm going to talk about are dimensions. So I'm going to go to my dimensions layer. I'm going to add a dimension right there. And my dimension layer, the line type is hidden, which we don't want. So let's go ahead and change that real quick. So there's our hidden on the dimension layer. Let's click that. We're actually going to switch that to continuous. Okay. And close that out. And now it's a continuous line. We do not want dimension lines to be hidden line types. That's a big no-no. The other thing that we want to avoid or simplify is you're going to notice that my decimal places and yours go out to 4 decimals. That's a lot of decimal places, far too many, more than we need. So in a machine shop, if you're working on CNC machines or whatever, you'd go out to 3 decimal places. If you were working on bigger objects, like you might find in architecture, you might go out to 2 decimal places, but certainly not 4. So I'm just going to show you where you can find that menu. So So you can type in units on your screen, and that'll bring you to your drawing units, and that brings you to precision. And I'm going to show you another way in just a second as well. So right there, and I'm just going to hit cancel and get out of here. I'll show you what I did again. So we're going to just, your cursor's in the middle of the screen, start typing on your keyboard units. You'll get some options. Precision 3, click OK. And it didn't change. It should change. It should update. Let's try again. Let's see if this unit changes right here. It didn't change. Okay. So let's go to the other way that I usually do it. So we're going to go to drawing. No, we're not. We're going to go to annotations. And this is a little bit longer way around. We're going to go to standard here. Then manage dimension styles. And I'll do this again in just a second. Modify. And then we're going to go to primary units. So it's in lines right now, symbols and arrows. It's not in that. It's not actually in text. You might think it might be in text. That you can adjust your text height. But primary units is where we want to go. We want to go to precision, 3 decimal units. Say OK, and close. And there we go. Now it updated to 3 decimal units. So I'm going to do that one more time. Annotation, standard, the second one down. Manage dimension styles. Modify. And this is a long way around, but I'm going to make you do it just so you remember. So it's burned into your brain how to do this, because it's something you'll do quite a bit. Primary units right there. And then there's your precision. I'll just, you can switch it to 3. Click OK and close. And that's it. So from now on, I'd like your units to be no more than 3 decimal precision. And I'm going to let you guys finish out your drawings. And so what you should have are all of the same dimensions that are on here. You can move your dimensions, though, if you need to, some of them, to your right side view. So you might dimension the overall height on your right side view, but each dimension that you see in here should be represented on your drawing as well. So good luck. Let me know if you guys have questions, and we'll keep going with that. Okay. And I'm going to stop recording.